Hi everyone, I'm Lee, and this is where I like to read. Hello everyone. Today I have a little bit of a book haul, so this is kind of part one. I know I have another box coming, so I think what I'm gonna do is oh my gosh, my dog is right here. He's being very cute. He wants to lay in front of me, but you can just barely not see him. He's the only one here today. The other two went with my husband to work. So he is going to bear witness and make sure that this video goes okay. Or maybe he's going to act as an agent of darkness and ruin everything. Who knows? He's pretty comfy right now, though, so I think he's in a good mood. I know that I have another box coming, so I'm probably going to film in two sessions. If it comes today, that's great. I'll be able to film both today, but if it doesn't, then there will be a cut in the middle and I'll be wearing different clothing. It was at this point in editing the video that I realized that I have royally screwed up. And I really mean royally screwed up. Because 3 minutes into filming this 51-minute video, my microphone died without any warning. So I have absolutely no audio here. I guess what I'm going to try to do is just kind of do a voiceover. Hopefully I can kind of tell what I'm talking about. That's just what we're gonna do until we get to the part where I charged my microphone and it's back. I think what I'm talking about here is where I got the books from. So I got these books from Bookoutlet, which Bookoutlet is an online book retailer that buys books that are overstock or damaged from other booksellers. A lot of them come from Target for whatever reason. They're all quote unquote defective, so I'll show it here. But most of them will have like just a little pen mark on the bottom of them. I've never gotten one that has anything worse than that, but you get them at an incredibly discounted price. And it's usually things like new releases and special editions, things like that. You just get them for really, really cheap. And they're brand new. They've never been used before. They just have a mark on them or something. I'm trying to even think of what else to say here. Oh, yeah, I was just talking about how this is not sponsored, but when you sign up for rewards, you get a certain amount of points for every dollar you spend buying books. And so you can refer people. And if you use my referral code, I think we both get $5 or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and link my link. I will link my link in the description and probably pin a comment or something so that you can go and get $5 off of your purchase at Bookoutlet. Everyone gets a referral code when they sign up for the rewards. It's not like I'm sponsored or anything like that. But if you want to go ahead and use that, that's super cool. I'll get $5 and you'll get $5. Most of this video is me talking about the books that I got, of course. So I pretty much just like read the back of the book. I know that I do have a little bit of footage from when I filmed later for things that were sequels. If it was a sequel, I didn't read the back of it because I didn't want to give spoilers. So I will just insert those clips after I read the back. Man, I just go on forever, don't I? Also, I'm just going to mention this now. It's the 4th of July. I was planning on editing this video tonight with my headphones on because I hate fireworks. I really don't like loud noises, so I really just don't like fireworks. But now I have to do this, so I am sitting in my closet because it is the innermost place in my house, which is the least likely for you to be able to hear the explosions. I go on for so long about nothing. Okay, I'm actually already a quarter of the way through, and I haven't even picked up a book yet. And if you're wondering, my dog Woody, who is in this video, is also sitting in the closet with me right now. Okay, so the first book that I have is called The Night Ends with Fire. It has this beautiful cover, these beautiful end papers. It has a really, really pretty sprayed edge. I did not expect this to be such a pretty copy of the book. It's absolutely beautiful. I think there was a little bit of wear on it, if I recall correctly. These books are shelved now and I don't really want to pull them out, but most of what you need to know is that this is a Mulan retelling. She joins the army to get away from the responsibilities that her family is putting on her, such as getting married, and then she falls in love. Her father is also, I believe, some kind of drug addict in this version. The next book that I have here is He Who Drowned the World. It is the second book in the Radiant Emperor duology. The first book is She Who Became the Sun. It's kind of also sort of Mulan-esque, where a young girl, instead of joining the army, she goes to a monastery and becomes a monk. And then it does a lot with playing with gender and their identity, whether they feel like a man, feel like a woman. They continue to be a man throughout the rest of their life, and a lot of things happen. I have read both of these books. I rated them very highly. I very much enjoyed them, so I was very excited to be able to snag a copy of He Who Drowned the World. Even though I don't have She Who Became the Sun yet, I do plan on getting it, so I thought, why not? I don't actually have a clip of me talking about the first book because I feel confident in my ability to tell you what the first book is about, which is what I just told you. So I didn't feel the need to film a clip of myself reading the back of the first book. I only did that for books that I didn't feel comfortable talking about, basically if I hadn't read the first book. And you can see that it does have a dot. That's pretty much it. That's about the worst case scenario with this kind of stuff, in my opinion. You're not gonna get much wrong with it beyond that. This next book is, I believe it's called A Song to Drown Rivers. Again, with this novel, it has some really nice sprayed edges, and the cover has a sword on it. The back is a hairpin. So I guess it's like the duality of beauty and strength, beauty and power, something like that. And then once I'm done struggling with that, the end papers are also very pretty. It is a historical fantasy novel based on the legend of Shishi, one of the famous four beauties of ancient China. It's an epic novel about myth, womanhood, war, sacrifice, and love against all odds as the fate of two kingdoms hangs in a delicate balance. So, from what I understand, she is trying to avenge her sister's murder, and to do so, she is infiltrating the enemy palace as a spy. She's going to seduce the king and then weaken them from within so that her kingdom can take over. That is the general idea. So the next book that I have here is Lion Among Men. It is a large print version. I actually ordered this for my husband. These are his books. It's the third book in the series, so I will put the video here of me talking about the first book. So this is the first one, just called Wicked. It says on the back, when Dorothy triumphed over the Wicked Witch of the West in L. Frank Baum's classic tale, we heard only her side of the story. But what about her arch nemesis, the mysterious witch? Where did she come from? How did she become so wicked? And what is the true nature of evil? Gregory Maguire creates a fantasy world so rich and vivid that we will never look at Oz the same way again. Wicked is about a land where animals talk and strive to be treated like first-class citizens. Munchkinlanders seek the comfort of middle-class stability, and the Tin Man becomes a victim of domestic violence. And then there is the little green-skinned girl named Elphaba, who will grow up to become the infamous Wicked Witch of the West, a smart, prickly, misunderstood creature who challenges all our preconceived notions about the nature of good and evil. So I have a friend who works at Barnes & Noble, and she tells me about books, and about selling books, and about who buys books and everything. She told me that this is very dark, as you can probably tell just from hearing the fact, specifically the Tin Man being a victim of domestic violence. So she told me that it's very dark, it's not for children, and she has to steer parents away from buying it for their children because they like the musical or they like the movie. So from my understanding, this is the source material. The source material of this is The Wizard of Oz, and the musical is based pretty loosely on this, and then the movie is based on the musical. It's a game of telephone, honestly. My husband bought this originally, but he hasn't read it yet, and so I went ahead and grabbed the third book because I saw it on sale. But I definitely will read this. I'm interested to see what it's like. Alright, next we have The Blood of Old Kings by Sung-il Kim. This is yet another fantasy novel. This is a story about an empire that is run on necromancy. The sorcerers use the dead for pretty much everything, and there is a girl who's born with this magic, so she knows that her fate is to be a necromancer and help her empire or whatever. But then she starts hearing the voice of this dead sorcerer, and she realizes there might be another way to live. There is a concurrent plot with a dragon and a swordswoman, and then also a man who is trying to figure out who murdered his friend and mentor, and they're all gonna come together somehow, basically. Then next we have Murtag. I'm not sure how to say it, but it is the deluxe version with the nice sprayed edges. It doesn't have a dust jacket. It's actually just printed onto the cover, which I love. I would much rather have a naked book. Personally, it has these maps for the end papers, which I think is pretty cool. So this is, I believe, the 5th book in the series, and I will insert the clip here of me talking about the first book, Aragon. Aragon. It's a very floppy copy. It says, one boy, one dragon, a world of adventure. When Aragon finds a polished blue stone in the forest, he thinks it is the lucky discovery of a poor farm boy. Perhaps it will buy his family meat for the winter. But when the stone brings a dragon hatchling, Aragon soon realizes he has stumbled upon a legacy nearly as old as the Empire itself. Overnight, his simple life is shattered, and he is thrust into a perilous new world of destiny, magic, and power, with only an ancient sword and the advice of an old storyteller for guidance. Aragon and the fledgling dragon must navigate the dangerous terrain and dark enemies of an empire ruled by a king whose evil knows no bounds. Can Aragon take up the mantle of the legendary dragon riders? The fate of the empire may rest in his hands. So, this is one of those books I have not read this, but honestly, it's one of those books kind of like the Hunger Games, kind of like Harry Potter, where it seems like adults also read this, but again, I think it's like kind of middle grade to YA. I bought the 5th one in the series, and I have the first one, I don't have the other 3. So next we have The 3-Body Problem, which I have actually read. The 3-Body Problem is a science fiction novel. It is the first book in the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy. It is a Netflix series. It is very, very dense academic science fiction. It's fairly well done, I would say, as a person who has a degree in astrophysics, but I found it to be very, very, like I said, dense, hard to follow. Basically, it's about this guy who works in nanotech, he works in material science, and he starts seeing this countdown on his eyes, and then he's told that he needs to stop his research in order to stop the countdown. He then gets into playing this game called the 3-Body Problem, which is basically like, I'm trying to think how to explain this. So, the 3-Body Problem game, they're trying to solve the 3-body problem, and that's because there's a world that has 3 suns that is continuously getting scorched, and they're having to restart their civilization over and over and over. So the point of the game is to solve the issue and save the civilization. And then you find out that there's some other stuff going on, and I won't get into it too much because I'm not sure what's considered spoilers and what's not, but that's the basis of it. And then there are 2 more books which are connected but about different characters. There's a lot of time jumps. It's very interesting, and actually the 3rd book reminded me a lot of The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, which is one of my favorite books. I really did enjoy the 3rd one a lot. I thought that the first one had kind of a slow start, to be honest, but I did enjoy them. So at this point in the video, I had to take a break, and it's still the same day, but it is now evening. And I just had some stuff that I had to get done, and by the time I could get back to it, it was already nighttime. So that's what that little change is about. So the next book that I have is What Feasts at Night. Wow, I did not do a good job of holding that up. This is by T. Kingfisher, and I have the first book, which I don't know if I did a clip of myself reading that actually, but I do know that T. Kingfisher is very well recommended. My husband and I actually did a little challenge where we went to Barnes & Noble and picked out books for each other, and we both picked T. Kingfisher books for each other. He picked the first book in that duology for me. The next book that I have here is called When Among Crows. This is by Veronica Roth. Yes, that Veronica Roth that wrote Divergent, and it takes place in Chicago as well, which was very funny to me. Turns out she lives in Chicago. Which I guess makes sense, but that is also where Divergent takes place. I thought when I bought it that it was medieval fantasy setting. Turns out it is an urban fantasy of some sort, but it's also very short, so I am going to give it a shot. I don't usually enjoy urban fantasies, if I don't like it, it'll be short-lived. Which actually sounds like maybe I just need to pay attention to what I'm buying more. I don't know. So next I have Malarkoi by Alex Phoebe. This is the second book in the Cities of Weft series, and I will insert the clip of me talking about Mordu here. Mordu by Alex Phoebe. I absolutely am in love. I talked about this with the sequel, Malarkoi. It's the Cities of Weft is the series, but I am in love with these covers. I absolutely judge a book by its cover. I love the like hand-drawn illustration vibes. God is dead, his corpse hidden in the catacombs beneath Mordu. In the slums of the sea-battered city, the young Nathan Treves lives with his parents, eking out a meager existence by picking treasures from the living mud and the half-formed, short-lived creatures it spawns. Until one day, his desperate mother sells him to the mysterious master of Mordu. The master derives his magical power from feeding on the corpse of God. But Nathan, despite his fear and lowly station, has his own strength, and it is greater than the master has ever known. Great enough to destroy everything the master has built, if only Nathan can discover how to use it. So it is that the master begins to scheme against him, and Nathan must first So it is that the master begins to scheme against him, and Nathan must fight his way through the betrayals, secrets, and vendettas of the city where God was murdered and darkness reigns. The next book is Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. I am going to say it is getting very warm in this closet. So this is kind of Hunger Games-esque, where they have these games in their capital city every year. It's actually capital twin cities, and they fight to the death for unimaginable riches. The princess of the kingdom, 5 years ago, her parents were killed, and it turns out that it was actually her that did it, and she's trying to kill her uncle as well. There is also an aristocrat whose childhood love is laying in a coma, and he is trying to save her. He wants to use this money to save her, and then they of course form an alliance, and they also get help from Kala's cousin, it seems. So that's kind of the situation that we're working with here. Now, I believe my copy has the thing where the next book is The Fall of Numenor, which is a history book that goes along with The Lord of the Rings. It is sort of a collection of stories that Tolkien wrote that are compiled with illustrations to make a book. I was actually thinking this was a hardcover when I bought it. I was a little bit disappointed that it was a paperback, so I am probably just going to replace it eventually anyway, but you know, it's nice to have it for now. Next we have Independent Study, which is the second book in the testing series by, I believe her name is Joanne Charbonneau, and this is kind of a YA series that gives sort of like Darkest Minds, Maze Runner vibes. Like, I talk more about this in the clip of me talking about the first book, The Testing, which I will insert here. Next we have The Testing by Joelle Charbonneau. Charbonneau? There it is. It's very shiny. Do you have what it takes to pass the testing? The Seven Stages War left much of the planet a charred wasteland. The future belongs to the next generation's chosen few who must rebuild it. Built to enter this elite group, candidates must first pass the testing, their one chance at a college education and a rewarding career. Sia Vale is honored to be chosen as a testing candidate, eager to prove her worthiness as a university student and future leader of the United Commonwealth. But on the eve of her departure, her father's advice hints at a darker side to her upcoming studies. Surely, though, she can trust Thomas, there's no H, Thomas, her handsome childhood friend who offers an alliance. Thomas, who seems to care more about her with the passing of every grueling and deadly day of the testing. To survive, Sia must choose love without truth or life without trust. Honestly, I do not anticipate this being a very exciting read for me. It reminds me a lot of like Darkest Minds, Maze Runner, Hunger Games, but Hunger Games is better than that. Those kind of books, very like Chosen One-y, and it seems kind of like middle grade to YA. When I rate like middle grade to young adult books, I don't expect them to be like a masterpiece of prose or something like that. I judge them based on if the concept is interesting and unique. There is a certain amount of how immature is it that goes into it, but mostly it's about whether it's entertaining, whether it's fun. Like a book like this, I feel like I've read a lot of books like this, and so then it becomes who did it first and who did it better, essentially, which I don't think this did it first, and I don't think this did it better. The final book that we have here is Heavenbreaker, and it has this beautiful, beautiful sprayed edge. They did do a dot on the sprayed edge, which is a little bit of a shame, but it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. I read the back of it, and upon reading the back of it, it actually does not sound very good to me, which is really, really disappointing because it is a beautiful book with these beautiful end papers and beautiful sprayed edge. And it is sort of some kind of another assassination attempt book in a way. It seems that she is trying to kill her father, who tried to have her killed when he had her mother killed, and she's his bastard daughter, essentially. And the writing of it was just very weird, very young, very immature, very pick-me energy. It was not well written for just the blurb, and that makes me feel like the book is not going to be very good, if that makes sense, which again is a shame because it is a beautiful copy, and I can see it on my face that that's what I'm feeling there. I'm going to hand you off now to Lee with audio, because that's where we're headed now to the next day. Ooh. Okay, so next we have the first of my husband's picks from what he got from Book Outlet. He got mostly paperbacks, and he got a couple of hardcovers, so I'll start with the hardcovers because there's fewer of those. First we have Absolution by Jeff Vandermeer. This is kind of like a cosmic horror sci-fi from what I know, and I'm pretty sure that they're relatively old. I think we have these copies of the first three that we just got like a couple months ago, maybe, and these say that they're the 10th anniversary edition. So actually, I guess they're not that old because it's 2025. Wow, okay. I did not think about that. Oh man, N.K. Jemisin is on the back. I love her. She's so good. This is the Southern Reach series. It has this really cool, like, alligator mutant on the front. They all have that, and it's got, like, this metallic-y on parts of it. I think the covers are super, super cool. The only thing is that we have 3 paperbacks, and this one came out last year, so I'm pretty sure it's only available in hardcover right now, so we had to get it in hardcover, but it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. It has the same cover still. This is the first one, Annihilation, and this one, Absolution, came out last year, and it was like a surprise 4th book, but I have heard that it's not as good as the first ones, the first 3. The back of Annihilation says, in Annihilation, the first volume of Jeff Vandermeer's now classic Southern Reach series, Area X has been cut off from the rest of the continent for decades, and nature has reclaimed the last vestiges of human civilization. Expedition after expedition into Area X has failed to uncover its mysteries and the true nature of its danger to the world. Now, a 12th expedition makes the attempt. A group of 4 women, an anthropologist, a surveyor, a psychologist, and the narrator, a biologist. Their mission is to map the terrain, record observations of their surroundings, and, above all, avoid being contaminated by Area X. So that is the first one. Who knows what the next 3 are about. I am really excited to read these. I think they look super cool. I really, really like the covers. I judge a book by its cover. It's looking good for these. Next, we have The Ministry of Time, which is interesting, an interesting choice. I'm not gonna lie, I also saw this book on Book Outlet, and I read the blurb, and then I decided not to get it. I wasn't particularly interested in what it was about, honestly. I'll read it because now I own it, so maybe I'll like it. My plan is to read every book we own, whether they're mine or Nolan's. It says, an ingeniously imagined, hilarious romp through time, space, and the human heart that announces an exhilarating new voice in contemporary fiction. In the near future, a civil servant is offered the salary of her dreams to work on a top-secret project. A recently established government ministry is gathering expats from across history to establish whether time travel is feasible for the human body, but also for the fabric of space-time. She is tasked with working as a bridge, living with, assisting, and monitoring the expat known as 1847, or Commander Graham Gore. As far as history is concerned, Commander Gore died on Sir John Franklin's doomed 1845 expedition to the Arctic, so he's a little disoriented to be living with an unmarried woman who regularly shows her calves surrounded by outlandish concepts such as washing machines, Spotify, and the collapse of the British Empire. But with an appetite for discovery, a 7-day cigarette habit, and the support of a charming and chaotic cast of fellow expats, he soon adjusts. Over the next year, what begins as an excruciatingly uncomfortable housemate dynamic evolves into something much deeper. By the time the true shape of the ministry's project comes to light, the bridge has fallen haphazardly, fervently in love, with consequences she never could have imagined. Forced to confront the choices that brought them together, the bridge must finally reckon with whether what she does next can change the future. It sounds to me like a romance novel. And then, if you look at the front, Emily Henry is quoted. Emily Henry is quoted on the front, which I don't know much about romance novels, but I do know who Emily Henry is. I have never read any of her books, but I know she's very, very big in romance, like contemporary romance right now. That makes me think this is a romance novel. And I've never known Nolan to read a romance novel. And I have never read a straight romance novel either. This is gonna be interesting for sure. It looks cute. I don't know, it's rainbow. So next we have a couple of Dashiell Hammett books. We have The Maltese Falcon. When one detective's partner is killed on a stakeout, the police blame him for the killing. It seems things can't get any worse until they do. A fantastic treasure worth killing for. Sam Spade, a sightly shop-worn private eye with his own solitary code of ethics. A perfumed grafter named Joel Cairo. A fat man named Gutman, and Bridget O'Shaughnessy, a beautiful and treacherous woman whose loyalties shift at the drop of a dime. These are the ingredients of Dashiell Hammett's coolly glittering gem of detective fiction, a novel that has haunted generations of readers. I have never read a detective fiction. I have read Agatha Christie, but I've never read any of her detective fiction. That's interesting. And Nolan is more interested in mysteries than I am, and he's also more interested in detective fiction, I guess. It seems he has different tastes from me. But maybe if I read his books, I'll find things I like and expand. So the other Dashiell Hammett book we have is Red Harvest. The steadfast and sturdy Continental Op has been summoned to the town of Personville, known as Poisonville, a dusty mining community splintered by competing factions of gangsters and petty criminals. The Op has been hired by Donald Wilson, publisher of the local newspaper, who gave little indication about the reason for the visit. No sooner does the Op arrive than the body count begins to climb, starting with his client. With this last honest citizen of Poisonville murdered, the Op decides to stay on and force a reckoning, even if that means taking on an entire town. Red Harvest is more than a superb crime novel. It is a classic exploration of corruption and violence in the American grain. I don't know what Continental Op means. Next we have One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Okay. In the madness of World War II, a dutiful Russian soldier is wrongfully convicted of treason and sentenced to 10 years in a Siberian labor camp. So begins this masterpiece of modern Russian fiction, the harrowing account of a man who has conceded all things evil with dignity and strength. First published in 1962, it is considered one of the most significant works to ever emerge from Soviet Russia, illuminating a dark chapter in Russian history. One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich is at once a graphic picture of work camp life and a moving tribute to man's will to prevail over relentless dehumanization told by a literary genius whose talent matches that of Dostoevsky, Turgenev, Tolstoy, and Gorky. This sounds like Shawshank Redemption, which I do really like that movie. I have seen it twice, and I will probably never watch it again. I think it was a masterpiece, but it makes me very upset. It makes me very sad. The next book that we have is Babi Yar. At the age of 14, Anatoly Kuznetsov began keeping a diary of life in Ukraine under Nazi occupation. Years later, he combined those notebooks with other survivors' memories to create a classic work of documentary witness in the form of a novel. When a censored version of Babi Yar was first published in a Soviet magazine in 1966, it became a literary sensation, not least for its powerful and unprecedented narratives of the Nazi massacre of the city's Jews and later other victims at Kiev's Babi Yar ravine, one of the largest mass killings of the Holocaust. Presented here in its full, uncensored form, Babi Yar is a classic of Holocaust and World War II testimony. With sustained immediacy, it relates a scrappy but principled boy's day-to-day fight to survive and provide for his family. He dodges bullets and avoids transport to Germany, wonders at the pomp of the Nazis' opera performances, overhears his mother and grandparents debate the merits of German versus Soviet rule, collects grenades and digs hiding places, and confronts the moral dilemmas of assisting neighbors or looting stores, all the while hearing the constant hum of bullets at Babi Yar ravine nearby. In a bravura feat of reporting, Kuznetsov tells the story of what happened at Babi Yar, from the deceptive roundup of the city's Jews and the execution of the national soccer team to memories of the site's few survivors and the story of a daring escape. The book's once expurged passages also expose the Soviet effort to hide the realities of wartime. I have never heard of Babi Yar, the ravine. In this, I know like quite a bit about World War II. I took AP history classes in high school and everything, and I've never heard of that, so that's very, very interesting. I did not think that this was going to be something that I would be interested in, but I did really love Night, and so I think this will actually be a very interesting read. That is a surprise. So hopefully this will be a little lighter. I have no idea because I don't know what these books are. The last 3 books that my husband picked are all by the same author, John Scalzi. This one is called Old Man's War. John Perry did 2 things on his 75th birthday. First, he visited his wife's grave, then he joined the army. The good news is that humanity finally made it to the stars. The bad news is that out there, planets fit to live on are scarce, and alien races willing to fight us for them are common. So, we fight. Far from Earth, the war has been going on for decades, brutal, bloody, unyielding. Responsible for protecting humanity, the Colonial Defense Forces doesn't want young people. They want people who carry the knowledge and skills of decades of living. You'll be taken off Earth, never to return. You'll serve 2 years in combat, and if you survive, you'll be given a homestead of your own on a hard-won planet light years from home. John Perry is taking that deal. He thinks he knows what to expect, but the actual fight is far, far harder than he can imagine, and what he will become is far stranger. Next, we have Red Shirts by John Scalzi. Ensign Andrew Dahl has just been assigned to the Universal Union capital ship Intrepid, flagship of the Union since the year 2456. It's a prestige posting with the chance to serve on away missions alongside the starship's famous senior officers. Life couldn't be better until Andrew begins to realize that 1, every away mission involves some kind of lethal confrontation with alien forces, and 2, the ship's senior officers always survive these confrontations, and 3, sadly, at least 1 low-ranking crew member is invariably killed. Unsurprisingly, the savvier crew members below decks avoid away missions at all costs. Then, Andrew stumbles on information that transforms his and his colleagues' understanding of what the Starship Intrepid really is, and offers them a crazy high-risk chance to save their lives. Oh, okay. So, my husband, Nolan, told me what this is when he ordered it. It is like a kind of parody of Star Trek, I think, and that's why it's called Red Shirts. Because, like, in Star Trek they wear different colored shirts. Hopefully it's really good. This sounds interesting, and so does Old Man's War. The final book that we have here is called Starter Villain. Yeah, it's got a cat on it, so that's pretty fun. It's a fun cover. Inheriting your uncle's supervillain business is more complicated than you might think, particularly when you discover who's running the place. Charlie's life is going nowhere fast, a divorced substitute teacher living with his cat in a house his siblings want to sell. All he wants is to open a pub downtown, if only the bank will approve his loan. Then his long-lost uncle, Jake, dies and leaves his supervillain business, complete with island volcano lair, to Charlie. But becoming a supervillain isn't all giant laser death rays and lava pits. Jake had enemies, and now they're coming after Charlie. His uncle might have been a stand-up, old-fashioned kind of villain, but these are the real thing. Rich, soulless predators backed by multinational corporations and venture capital. It's up to Charlie to win the war his uncle started against a league of supervillains. But with unionized dolphins, hyper-intelligent talking spy cats, and a terrifying hench person at his side, going bad is starting to look pretty good. In a dog-eat-dog world, be a cat. Okay, that's very interesting. It's giving kind of like, is that book called Dungeon Crawler Carl or something like that? Although, I don't know how funny this is supposed to be. He's also written Kaiju Preservation Society. This guy, he's got ideas, and it's crazy. I had no idea who he was, and now it's like I have a collection of his books because we have 3 of them all of a sudden. That was the last book for this haul. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you maybe heard something that you might be interested in. And don't forget, I am going to go ahead and leave my link to my book outlet referral in the description. And I could also like pin it in a comment. Maybe, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. If you use my referral, then you will get $5 off your order. And I will also get $5 off my next order. And you'll also get rewards. So it signs you up for the rewards. You get points for however much you spend, blah, 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 whatever. It's a pretty normal rewards program. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And until next time, I'll be here reading.